Hey, welcome. So today I thought I'd have tea with you and just talk a little bit about JavaScript LA and some of the questions we've been getting from our Instagram. Let me pull my phone real quick. And so one of the questions that somebody asked today on our IG was how do you keep up with the latest and greatest in JavaScript, as well as probably programming? That's what he's asking, Pure Torque 247. So this video is for you. All right, so hmm, yes, JavaScript is always changing, and essentially, you know, the world is getting a lot more complicated over time. When I started out as a developer, it was a little bit more easy to get in the JavaScript programming field. All you had to know at that time was a little bit of HTML, CSS, and jQuery. And jQuery wasn't that hard. You could just basically learn it, in 2 weeks, I would say. So after that, like you could start working on a website, and HTML and CSS are really, really easy to learn. I feel like, if you just concentrate for a little while, you should be able to get them maybe inside of a week. You can have like your own very first HTML page. As far as web work, it takes a little bit more time. You need to like practice a lot and do a lot of, coding tutorials, as well as, maybe freelance a little bit and try like working for someone. From there, what you want to do is start looking at how often you're doing the same thing over and over and over again in your code. For a long time when I was working in freelance, like we'd have like pages and pages of HTML repeating the same code. And I found that, oh yeah, maybe I can just use JavaScript to like replace some of this. And then instead of going and replacing code in all kinds of different files, I would just do it in a singular JavaScript file, and then I'd feel like, wow, that's so cool. I'd reduce my workload. And so, along the way, you've probably heard of like frameworks like React and Angular, and that is kind of like what those frameworks do at a glance, right? Their whole job is to essentially make it easier for you to write code, so you're not spending a ton of time writing, ridiculous amounts of HTML and jQuery as well. Even your JavaScript can get cluttered over time. Essentially, if you're not, making, the right call on where to put your JavaScript, you're just kind of like putting it mindlessly all over the place. Yeah, then it would just be a little bit of a waste of, memory, computer time, computer efficiency. And so that's really where it comes down to, like, how do you keep up in the ever-changing world? Well, what you want to do is you want to first get good at like the basics, just coding, and then, writing out HTML pages if you're a web developer. But then over time, you want to look at the way you're writing your code and refactor, because if you refactor, then that will actually take you up to the next level. Most of the senior programmers who are doing really well are all obsessed with this idea of, keeping your code dry. Don't repeat yourself. That's the old adage. So if you know how to do that, you will go further in your career. It doesn't matter what comes out, like a new framework like React or Angular or any of that. Essentially, as long as you know how to like make your code better and better, you'll pick up what these frameworks, are doing, kind of trying to do like out of the box, and it'll become easier to learn that kind of stuff. So yeah, like for developers today, it's a lot more to learn. You kind of have to spend more time learning before you can even get employed. And then even to get a job, you have to go through a series of interview questions. And most of the time, those interview questions are going to be challenging you to see if you can think in this sort of don't repeat yourself efficiency sort of mindset. That's where algorithms and data structures really come into play. If you know some algorithms and data structures, you can reduce your workload. So start thinking in that way. If you're doing JavaScript, start thinking about like if you can write higher order functions, because higher order functions will help you reduce the amount of imperative style work. So imperative and declarative, right? Those are two big words that you should go look up after this video. Imperative just basically means writing out stuff step by step by step, whereas declarative means kind of giving instructions and letting something else, like a program that's optimized to be able to do that set of code, just run itself. And so that's kind of like what React is. You sort of declare what you want to do. Angular, same thing. You declare what you want to do, and then you just kind of give the framework the chance to go and like work and build the things that you need, the components really, really fast. That is, in standard contrast to maybe jQuery, where you have to write out every single thing that you want to do, especially if you want to create a new table, and then you want to like insert a new row, and then when somebody clicks a button, you have to be responsible for what happens after they click the button. With a framework, you don't really have to do that. You can just kind of rely on the framework to rebuild on its own. And so that's a huge win, right? And so these are things people are going to ask you in interview questions. Do you know how to do this? Do you know how to optimize for that? And if you don't, then what you should do is, maybe if you don't do well in the interview, you should just try to like go back and like learn what you could have done better, write down all the questions that they asked you. And then, in your own free time, you don't have to do it obsessively, but you could spend a little bit more time, maybe once a week or 2 times a week, I recommend, just kind of like exploring some frameworks, exploring some libraries, and just seeing how did they optimize a lot of their code. What was the problem that they were originally trying to solve, and then how did they solve it? So jQuery solved the problem of writing JavaScript. JavaScript by itself is really tedious to write, especially if you want to just do things like creating divs and then putting content into them. So jQuery solved that by making JavaScript easier to write. And so it's a lot easier to create a div and put some content into it on the fly with jQuery as opposed to JavaScript. Same thing with React. React makes it a lot easier to rebuild components fast as opposed to having to manually do that with jQuery. So those are the things that you need to pay attention to, and then you will get better on your own. So I hope that this made sense to you, and I hope you liked this video. If you have more questions, feel free to send comments in the video below, and then you can also message me on Instagram, JavaScript Ninja, as well as just reach out on all of our social media and come to our website, Discord, and Slack channels. So I hope to see you at a next meetup, and I'll also see you on the next video.